When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: The Witness, Part 1. User: VA703. Posted March 11th, 1998.
The sunset on my drive home tonight was a work of art. It suffused the entire beltway with a deep orange-red glow that grew with every passing car's reflection until it felt as though I was driving through a river of fire. As that thought drifted through my mind, I felt an internal shift. It wasn't that I was remembering something exactly, more that I suddenly knew there was something to remember. But what? Miles went by, the gap in my memory aching like a rotten tooth. Something was missing. Not just a memory, a presence, somehow both comforting and frightening at the same time. The Mormons' colossal DC temple, its 6 spires stretching to the sky, rose up ahead in the distance, looking as ever like a monument left over from some long-dead race of giants. I'd always described it to myself that way, as a matter of course, without ever wondering where the thought had originated. Seeing those gleaming marble walls awash in fading carmine light, I remembered. The melancholy was rooted in a promise long forgotten, not out of carelessness, but rather because its circumstances were impossible to hold in the mind for long. Tonight, in this telling, I hope to relieve my burden. People forget now how brutal Hurricane Agnes was. On June 22, 1972, the James River peaked at more than 70 times its usual flow, drowning fully a sixth of Richmond, Virginia. Thousands more homes in Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. were flooded. Thankfully, mine wasn't one of them. That's not to say the power of the storm cowed me any less. I lay in bed listening to a howling wind as what sounded like continuous waves of rain broke against the walls of my house. The electricity had been out for hours, leaving me to huddle alone in the dark of my bedroom, covers drawn up around my chin. As with so many moments of prolonged crisis, I felt myself accepting the situation. Despite the chaos thrashing its way through the skies of Richmond and huge swaths of the eastern U.S., sleep worked its magic. My eyelids became heavy, my breath slowed into a deep, soothing rhythm. As my eyes finally closed, the usual hypnagogic kaleidoscope began to play out. Circles giving way to squares to dancing rows of lines before giving way to sleep. But that night was different. The rows of lines collected together into first one turning hexagon, then another, each nestled inside the one which came before it until they resembled a long, tumbling hallway. It was so unusual my eyes snapped open, fully expecting the hallucination to vanish as it always does. It did not. What I saw was that long, hexagonal tunnel floating above me in bed, just out of arm's reach. At its furthest end, the distance of which was impossible to judge, iridescent clouds swirled slowly around each other, flashing with internal light. I found myself unable to move, my gaze riveted on that faraway movement. The voice, when it came, echoed from the same place. "Be not afraid, I have come to ask for your mercy." It was a flat, neutral voice, neither male nor female, and yet I felt somewhere deep within it an intense emotion. While the rest of me may have been immobilized, I found my mouth worked quite well. "Who are you?" That answer will come should you extend your grace. Decline, and you will awake in the morning with no memory of this conversation. "I don't understand what you need." "I require a witness." "A witness to what?" "You must first consent. Consent, and you will experience wonders known to no other man. Your only burden will be that of any witness. You must, when the appropriate opportunity presents itself, tell others of the things you've seen. Will you come?" I could feel desperation, but not deception in the voice. The unreality of it all, the storm outside, the impossible tunnel above me, the stranger calling to me from within my own head, was almost enough to convince me I was dreaming. Almost. And if I was dreaming, what was the harm in saying yes? "Yes," I said to the distant clouds. "I'll be your witness." No sooner had I finished the thought than I tumbled upward, falling soundlessly down an impossibly long umbilicus until the flashing lights at the end filled my entire field of vision in a blinding banner of white. I reflexively closed my eyes, bringing my hands up to shield myself from a coming impact that never arrived. I realized I was floating. The voice spoke again. "Before you open your eyes, know that you are safe. You cannot fall." I followed the instructions, and even with the warning, I was unprepared for the panoramic nightscape hundreds of feet below me. A vast ocean stretched to the horizon, its black waves rolling ceaselessly onto a sandy shore teeming with beachgoers. The flashing clouds I'd seen through the hexagons were next to me, their beginning and end impossible to determine. I looked down at my body. I was wearing my red flannel pajamas, unmoved by any breeze. Above us, the pitch-black sky was studded with stars. "Welcome to the beach," the voice said. "This is the place through which all earthbound creatures exit this world." Something about the scene looked familiar to me. I felt myself drifting downward, closer to the ground. The clouds silently followed with me. "I remember this," I said out loud, surprised at my ability to speak. "Is this Santa Monica?" "A version of it, yes. Populated only by the dead. The place you call Los Angeles is one of this planet's major nexus points. It is what attracts dreamers and madmen, and why so many of the former become the latter. I could now make out individual faces. Some looked excited, others frightened. A bald man, his arms covered with tattoos, rushed toward an outcropping of stone where a ragdoll cat waited patiently. He swept the tiny animal up and held it close. Another man raced eagerly for the curling surf, disappearing into its depths. If this is where we exit life, where do we enter it? From the earth of a cold desert far to the east, it is marked by a great palace seen only by a chosen few. Those are the only two, what did you call them? Nexus points? There are many. Not all of them have purposes you would understand. Some, like those found in intersecting river valleys, are fixed. Others are transitional, moving with the landscape of man at the end of unfinished roads and half-built neighborhoods, the unfinished places, or those which have come undone. All along the beach, clusters of people were tearfully finding one another and embracing. I saw no recriminations, no fighting, only the joy of reunion. Is this what you wanted me to witness? What happens after we die? This is not what happens when you die, the voice replied sharply. This is only the beginning of the journey. No species knows what comes after death. For us, this is merely an exit point. I turned to face the churning clouds, despite having no idea where its face might be, if it even had one. Wait, does this mean I'm gonna die? Because I feel like you should have mentioned that. We are going past the sea, not into it. You're under my protection. No matter what you see on our journey, I will keep you safe. I considered the sea for several moments before working up the nerve to ask my next question. And who are you? A pause. Early humans of this second age would call me Ida. That will do. Why Ida? It was their word for river. That is where I would appear to them. Water eases the transition between worlds. And are you really just clouds? A longer pause. I'm projecting an illusion which will allow you to look upon me without distress. What I truly am would be difficult for you to see. Together, Ida and I began to drift outward, first over the sand, then across the face of the water. At long last, we came to its end, the line over which seawater cascaded into a gulf of glittering stars. No human eye has ever seen this sight. It will be the first of many. Ida, where are you taking me? To my home, or what remains of it. I wish to show you what could have been. With that, we plummeted as one down into the starry expanse below.
Subject, Behind the Dam. User, R3Geeks4. Posted, March 19, 1999.
They've been looking for Steven for over a week now. Flyers stapled to telephone poles, search parties combing the brush, cops knocking on doors and asking the same questions over and over. The whole damn town is out there acting like they're gonna find him alive, like he just wandered off, maybe hit his head and got lost. But I know better. He didn't get lost. He got eaten. And I ain't telling nobody, not a soul, because I saw it happen and I know what lives out there now, what's buried beneath the dam. Out past the rusted truck frame and the old surveyor markers nobody pays attention to. So go ahead, send out your bloodhounds and volunteers in reflective vests, just don't ask me to help. I ain't going back. Not for Stephen, not for anyone. It was supposed to be a regular Friday night. Just me and Stephen, high in the woods, like we'd done 100 times before. We had a couple joints, a pack of Marlboros, and a stolen flashlight that barely worked. The plan was simple. Head out to the tailgate spot behind Bryce's dam, light up, shoot the shit, and be back before midnight. You couldn't pay me enough to go back there now. We were about halfway through the first joint, sitting on the rusted-out truck bed when the woods went quiet. Not just quiet, dead. No frogs, no crickets. Even the wind died. We both noticed it even through the haze. That sudden hush, like nature itself, has just disappeared. Stephen cracked a joke about Bigfoot. I laughed, but I wish to hell I hadn't. Because next came the sound. At first, I thought it was something crashing through the trees. Big, heavy, but it didn't move like any animal I'd ever heard. It didn't sound like steps. It sounded like something pulling itself, dragging across the forest floor, wet and sticky like meat sliding across wet tile. Stephen stood up, squinting in the dark. I told him to sit his dumbass down, but he was already walking, flashlight flickering against the tree trunks. Probably a deer, he muttered. Then he screamed. It wasn't a gotcha kind of scream. It was primal. It was him dying. I ran, heart slamming in my throat. I didn't even think. I just charged toward the light and found it there. There's no word for what I saw, no reference point, just this hulking, twitching thing. Taller than a man, all twisted limbs and torn flesh like it had been stitched together wrong. Its skin was this sick, gray-green, stretched, pulsing muscle, and its face, Jesus, its face looked like someone had carved out a human skull and jammed in too many teeth, rows and rows, like a shark's mouth split down both cheeks. As for Stephen, he was still alive, or at least part of him was. The thing had him by the waist, hoisting him up like a rag doll, his legs kicking, one shoe missing. It opened its mouth not wide like a snake, but long, splitting nearly down its chest and jammed his upper body inside. I heard the crack of his collarbone as it bit down, heard the muffled scream from inside its guts. Blood sprayed the dirt in thick ribbons. Steam poured off the creature's back as it fed. Stephen's legs spasmed once, then stopped. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I just watched. Too far gone to think, too fucked up to process what was real, and then the thing dropped what was left of him. Just dropped him like trash. What hit the ground was not Stephen anymore. It was half of a torso, skin peeled back like wet tissue, his arms twisted under him at wrong angles. His face was entirely gone, torn off. Then, that thing, it turned to me. It didn't lunge, it didn't growl, just stood there and watched. I pissed myself in that moment. I know I did, and I ain't afraid to admit it, but after that, I ran, and it let me, thank God. And that's the worst part of the whole fucking thing. It could have killed me easy, but it let me go. Like it wanted someone to tell the story, like it wanted me to carry it. I got home covered in Steven's blood, shaking so bad my mom thought I'd OD'd. I told her I didn't and locked myself in my room for 3 days. Now there's posters going up, candlelight vigils, news crews showing up from Albuquerque. And me, I can't sleep. I see Steven's face, or what was left of it, every time I close my eyes. I hear bones cracking and skin tearing, and sometimes I think I hear that dragging sound out by the tree line. If they ever ask me to go back out there and help search, I'll tell them my ankle's fucked up or my grandma died or some shit. I don't care what lie I use because I am not going back.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.